Okay, so this is the phallus of Rai. This is the beginning of the I version of Rai. Before that, there was the ear version of Rai, which was acoustic space and pre-phonetic alphabet. Now the writing comes in. Now Isis is totally forced to stoop to conquer, to be subservient to the I, which favors the left hemisphere. Isis is right hemisphere. So is there any women in there? No. So Hammurabi makes everybody equal before the law. Every citizen. So it's a homogenization, it's a standardization, it's the beginning of mass, the assembly line. Intuiting the assembly line, which gets brought in with the printing press, 3,000 years later. But this is the dynamism. I mean, he had this huge empire over space. Nebuchadnezzar, they're saying. Visual space. They're stopping the control of time and now controlling space. Not as much as Rome, but begins here. This is the, and now Rai's return to essence. This no longer applies. Equal before the law. But not apply. Equal before the law does not apply. The law doesn't apply. Anarchy is our chosen gift. And it's not anarchy if you know how to do it right. So, yeah, that's the left hemisphere. This is 2001 in Space Odyssey. He tries to show the tactile emanation from it, but it is too much like the wall of visual space in 2001. He doesn't show the sphere. Sphere being the acoustic space. So this was a novelty that humans wanted to experience. They wanted to have visual space. So Rai has created new clothing for itself with an eye bias. Acoustic space. I am speaking with the old form of acoustic space, but inspired by the tactile electric space of the sphere and the square sphere. A new animal. This is a new animal. So they have all the old animals around, the lions in the gate to intimidate. This is the new nature, the beginning of new nature, new animals. The visual space is a meme. It's an animal. It's an environment. So what's interesting is that this was retrieved from 1900 to 1920s. Basically, they started building it here in 27. That's the telegraph, movie, airplane, radio era in the 20th century. We had moved out of Roman visual space, which was the British Empire in the 18th and 19th century, 1800s. Now we're moving into the beginning of slave societies for the chemical body. So the making of this in the 20s exactly mirrored what was happening to the new electric tactile space that was coming in. We were starting to move into these ancient slave societies or huge time-based societies that were coming out of acoustic space and starting to be visualized by the phonetic alphabet. Now here, the phonetic alphabet is being obsolesced and we're going into acoustic space and tactile space. So the timing, the mirror of where we were was the retrieval and construction of this. We had actually arrived in Babylon in 1927, or 1922, 1927. We weren't in the 20th century. The content was Babylon. That was a more accurate image of where society was going that would lead to the the 30s and the mass welfare societies and the mass iconic leaders, Hitler, Churchill, Roosevelt, Stalin. And so it's interesting how this is not the past. This is a mirror, an accurate retrieval of what was happening in the world in the 1920s. It was an expression of the present, not the past. These are not antiquities. They are the weather report. Next is a mixture of the eye and the ear, the verbal and the pictorial. So this is the newspaper world of the telegraph press. The 1920s is also the beginning of movies. So that's why Ezra Pound got interested in the Chinese ideogram for his structure of his poetry. It's why Lewis was talking to the architects, where is your vortex? Where's your awareness of the new dimensions? And his buddy Gordier Brzezinski, killed in World War I, had this manifestos in blast in 1914 about the retrieving of these pre-Greek social structures. So you have the movie, the newspaper photographic world is this text, redone with more complexity and verisimilitude. So this is where Joyce started writing Finnegan's Wake with this in mind. He starts Finnegan's Wake, the present Finnegan's Wake, in a museum. So this is the mixed media of the 1920s. It's more accurate than writings by scholars in books in the 20s. That's why Pound and Joyce had to make a post-verbal kind of writing. So it's interesting, it is from the past, it's a retrieval, but the timing of its retrieval in the 20s is perfectly resonant with the dynamics of the hidden effect of radio and movies, telegraph press, movies and airplane. So the artists, the painters and the composers, sculptors, were trying to express this in those particular Gutenberg arts. Picasso's Cubism, multi-locational it was called, collage. So they come together. This is Cubism. But Cubism is Gutenberg art. This is iconic art, iconic architecture. So the timing is evoked. The actual things that people discovered and created represented the moment, the dynamic of the moment. That's where there's no time in linear sense. Starting to go Egyptian and Babylonian. They were starting to retrieve these amazing spaces that sculpted visual space with with a tactile sculptural instinct or desire. And music became that. So to show the immensities of the new acoustic tactile space, they would bring in machinic environments. That's what the vortices did. They started making the machine, the huge industrial environments as the content to show something new was shaping people. And this points to what was being shaped and how it was being shaped. So it ends here, Nebuchadnezzar saying, I magnificently adorned them with luxurious splendor for all mankind to behold in awe, A-W-E. That's how cosmic awareness defined Ra'i. It was awe, and awe becomes author. So to behold, this is the beginning of the spectacle.
U is also gold.
Right, good point. And gold is nothing for pre-visual, pre-written societies. Gold's not important, but gold becomes a standard that never changes. Its value never changes. So now ion would give a whole interesting aspect of this. I mean, maybe this gate was a portal, you know, and those are aspects that Ionets could ask Ion on payday about what factors aren't we considering here besides the sculptural, sensual extensions I'm saying. So that remains to be seen.
Many people say this type of writing is alien. It's not from this world.
Right. Now they would say alien within this universe, visible universe on some other planet, but they're not including parallel world communication. And these parallel worlds aren't millions of miles away. They're right beside us. So this is it's interesting. It's all coming from Marduk. Whereas Egypt, it was Isis and Osiris, pretty equal. Here, though, Ishtar is beginning to be a subservient role.
And it's interesting that she's the goddess of love and war.
She had to, was Isis the goddess of love? The war part was brought in. I'm not sure about that. The male left hemisphere arts were brought in, and the woman had to include that. So there's the beginning of schizophrenia, goddess of love and war. The blue stone.
It's ionic color.
Yeah.
What would you say about this type of blue?
Well, Ion goes on about blue.
It's a frequency.
Right. And then you have Zappa's song, the underwater pyramid, the blue, forget what it was, the blue something, but he has the blue pyramid? No, the underwater pyramid, the blue, haven't heard it in a while. So Zappa emphasizes the word blue. On my chart, tiny note chart, blue is the Thompson quadrant. And this is what the Thompson quadrant looks into. The Yucatan, the ET contact, the ET Sitchin idea that other planetary civilizations were the force behind these. It's not, if they said that the main ones were way bigger, but it is kind of weak. I'm not impressed with it. I am not stunned by the design, you know. You got advertising in magazines is better than this. But the people, the little people, to have this eye symmetry, this order, this repeat motif was a big novelty, creating a new kind of awe.